The sound of the judge's gavel cracked through the courtroom, and for a second I thought my heart might stop. Linda sat at the table across from me, mascara streaked, staring like I was the traitor. Her son, Brandon, slouched beside her in a cheap suit that screamed, "Borrowed from a friend," arms folded, as if this hearing was just some minor hassle before he got his $290,000. He honestly believed the court was about to force me to pay his debt. The arrogance was almost impressive. "Mr. Ramirez," the judge said, peering over his glasses at me with the weary expression of a man who'd seen too many family disasters. "You are under no legal obligation to cover this young man's stupidity." Brandon's head snapped up like someone had yanked his leash. Linda grabbed his arm with the desperation of a woman watching her house of cards collapse in slow motion. The room went so quiet I could hear the air conditioning hum, and somewhere in the back, a woman's nervous breathing. That was the moment I knew I'd done the right thing, when I walked out of my own house and disappeared like smoke. My name is Charlie Ramirez. I'm 47, born and raised in Houston, Texas, in a neighborhood where men fix things with their hands and measure success by steady work, not Instagram followers. Until a few weeks before that gavel fell, I honestly believed I'd die in the same brick ranch house on Elmwood Drive with the same woman I'd been married to for 15 years. I was wrong about a lot of things back then, but I learned fast. It started on a Tuesday night, one of those gray March evenings when Houston's weather can't decide if it wants to be winter or spring. The humidity hung in the air like a wet blanket. I came home from the construction site, dog-tired, steel-toed boots heavy with concrete dust, my high-visibility vest damp with sweat from a 12-hour day pouring foundations for another strip mall that would probably be empty in 5 years. All I wanted was a cold beer, a hot shower, and maybe some leftover barbacoa from Sunday. Instead, I got Linda with the folder. She was waiting at the kitchen table like a prosecutor preparing for trial, still in her pharmaceutical company blazer, the navy blue one that cost more than I made in a week. The TV was off, which should have been my first warning. Linda always had the news running, background noise to fill the spaces where conversation used to live. A manila folder sat in front of her, thick enough to choke a horse. She slammed it down the second I walked in, and the sound hit me like a hammer against an I-beam. "Sit," she said. Not hello, not how was your day, not even wash your hands first. Just sit, like I was a dog she was training. I set my hard hat down on the counter, hung my safety vest on the chair, and sat across from her at the table we'd bought at a furniture warehouse clearance sale 8 years ago. The kitchen light felt too bright, like an interrogation room. The old dishwasher hummed louder than usual, or maybe everything just felt louder because I could sense the storm coming. She flipped the folder open and spun it around toward me with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. Pages of numbers, bank logos, red past due stamps that looked like warning lights on a dashboard. "What is this?" I asked, though part of me already knew I wasn't going to like the answer. "You're paying my son's debt," she said, as casually as if she were telling me to pick up milk on the way home. $290,000. The bank wants it paid. I told Brandon you'd have money moving by tomorrow. No delays. For a second, all I heard was the ticking of the clock over the stove and rain starting to tap against the window. My brain tried to process that number, $290,000, more than I made in 4 years, more than we'd paid for the house. "Linda," I said slowly, setting my hands flat on the table to keep them from shaking, "are you out of your goddamn mind?" She rolled her eyes like I was being dramatic about a $20 overdraft fee. "Don't start with the theatrics, Charlie. You've got your 401k. We can refinance the house again. You can pick up overtime, maybe get that supervisor position you've been talking about for years. The point is, Brandon needs a clean slate. He's trying to build a future." Brandon. 26 years old, healthy as a horse, had never kept a job longer than 8 months in his entire adult life. The same kid who once laughed at me over Christmas dinner and said, "I'm not breaking my back on some construction site like you, Charlie. I'm not that desperate." "This is from his fitness business thing?" I asked, scanning statements that looked like they were written in a foreign language designed specifically to confuse working people. "He had some setbacks," she snapped the way she always defended him, like he was still 12 instead of a grown man who specialized in failure. "It happens in business. The bank doesn't care about setbacks. They just want the money, and you're the man of this house, so you're going to handle it." The word handle sat in my mouth like spoiled meat. "Why is my name on some of these?" I asked, spotting signatures that looked like mine but felt wrong, like someone had traced them. She didn't even blink. "You authorized me years ago. I've been handling the paperwork for this family since we got married. It's the same thing." My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step going downstairs. I kept turning pages, each one worse than the last, until my hands started to shake with something that felt like rage mixed with disbelief. "You opened business loans in my name," I said quietly. She sighed like I was being tedious. "Charlie, I did what I had to do for my son. Our son." "He's not our son," I said before I could stop myself. "He's your son, and he's a grown man who apparently thinks other people should pay for his mistakes." Her eyes went flat and cold, the way they did when she'd made up her mind about something and wouldn't hear arguments. "You're being very small right now," she said, her voice carrying that particular blend of disappointment and condescension she'd perfected over the years. The same tone she used when explaining why I couldn't understand complex financial strategies, or why my blue-collar perspective was limited. I looked around our little kitchen, the oak table from Home Depot that we'd assembled together on a Saturday morning when we still laughed at each other's jokes, the faded stainless steel fridge covered with magnets from places we'd never been, the window where we used to stand on Sunday mornings and watch the neighbor kids ride their bikes down Elmwood Drive. For a second, I saw us on our honeymoon 15 years ago down in Galveston, Linda laughing in the Gulf wind with her hands shoved deep in my jacket pockets because she'd forgotten to pack a sweater. Back then, she'd clung to me like I was her anchor in rough seas. Now she was looking at me like I was a ATM machine that had stopped dispensing cash. "I'm not liquidating my future so Brandon can crawl out of a hole he dug himself," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. $290,000. "That's not just money, Linda. That's my retirement. That's the roof over our heads. That's everything I've worked 30 years to build." She leaned forward across the table, her perfume too sweet in the kitchen air that suddenly felt thick and hostile. "Your simple little life disgusts me sometimes, Charlie. You think so damn small. That's why you've been swinging a hammer your whole life while other men become something. Brandon is meant for bigger things. He just hit a rough patch with some dishonest business partners. You, on the other hand?" She paused for effect, the way she did when she wanted to drive a nail through something. "You're replaceable." Replaceable. The word hung in the air like smoke from an electrical fire. 27 years of getting up at 5 a.m., 27 years of calloused hands and aching knees, 27 years of building other people's dreams one foundation at a time, and I was replaceable. Like a worn-out drill bit or a cracked level that you toss in the dumpster without a second thought. I swallowed hard, tasting something bitter. "So that's what I am to you." "You're my husband," she said, straightening up with the authority of someone who'd never doubted her right to make demands. "And that means when my son needs help, you provide. End of discussion. You'll talk to the bank tomorrow morning, transfer whatever you have access to, liquidate the 401k if you have to. We'll figure out the rest later. But Brandon gets that money flowing by tomorrow afternoon, or there are going to be consequences." I already told him it was handled. My hands were still resting on that folder, but I wasn't seeing the numbers anymore. I was seeing 15 years of holidays where I carved the turkey while Brandon complained about the side dishes. 15 years of birthday dinners where I paid the check while he talked about his latest get-rich-quick scheme. 15 years of watching my wife's face light up when her son walked in the room and go neutral when she looked at me. I saw myself through her eyes, a walking checkbook with rough hands and simple dreams. A man whose only value was his ability to solve her problems with money he'd earned while she was building her career, and her son was finding himself. "No," I said. It came out quieter than I'd intended, but it surprised both of us. Linda blinked like someone had just spoken to her in a foreign language. "What did you say?" "I said no." I pushed the folder back across the table toward her, and the papers rustled like dry leaves. "I'll look at this mess. I'll talk to the bank tomorrow and see what we're really dealing with. But I'm not promising you a damn thing tonight, and I'm sure as hell not promising Brandon anything." The temperature in the kitchen seemed to drop 10 degrees. Linda's eyes narrowed into the expression I'd learned to recognize over the years, the look she got when someone dared to question her authority or suggest that maybe, just maybe, she might be wrong about something. "If you walk away from this," she said, her voice taking on the sharp edge of a woman who'd spent years getting her way through sheer force of will, "don't you dare call yourself my husband." I stood up slowly. My knees ached from kneeling on concrete all day, and my heart ached for reasons that had nothing to do with physical work. I looked down at this woman I'd shared a bed with for 15 years. This woman who thought love was something you could withdraw from like a checking account, and I felt something inside me shift and settle, like a foundation finding level ground. "Maybe I don't want to," I said, and walked down the hall toward our bedroom. Behind me, I heard her suck in a sharp breath, but I didn't turn around to see her expression. Some conversations don't need witnesses. In our bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the little ceramic dish on my dresser where my father's wedding band lived alongside my spare change and a few old buttons that had fallen off work shirts over the years. Dad had worn that ring through 38 years of marriage and a lifetime of honest work. Construction, just like me, building things that lasted. He used to tell me back when I was young enough to think I knew everything, "You protect your family, mijo, but you don't let them destroy you. There's a difference between sacrifice and suicide." I picked up that ring and rolled the cool metal between my fingers until my breathing slowed and my thoughts cleared. The gold was worn smooth in places where it had rubbed against tools and materials for decades, but it was still solid, still whole, unlike some things I could name. The next day on my lunch break, I drove to the Harris County Credit Union in my work truck, still wearing my hard hat and safety vest because I wanted to look exactly like what I was, a working man who'd earned every dollar he'd ever deposited. The parking lot was half empty, filled mostly with sensible sedans and pickup trucks that had actually seen work. Inside, the lobby smelled like old carpet and the kind of industrial-strength air freshener they use in government buildings. A young woman named Jessica, probably fresh out of college with her business degree and optimistic smile, took me to a small office with motivational posters about retirement planning. "I need to freeze every account with my name on it," I told her, sliding the photocopied loan documents across her desk. "Even the ones I didn't open myself." She frowned as she flipped through the papers, her expression shifting from professional politeness to genuine concern. "Mr. Ramirez, are you sure you didn't authorize these business credit lines? Some of these signatures—" "I'm sure," I said, watching her study the documents with the kind of attention to detail that gives you hope for the future. "And I think my wife might have committed fraud." The words tasted strange coming out of my mouth, but they felt true in a way that most things hadn't felt for a long time. "Well," Jessica said, setting the papers down and looking at me with the kind of direct honesty you don't usually get from financial institutions, "then you're going to need to speak with an attorney. Today." I nodded. Already called one. I'd spent my morning break on the phone with Jonathan Wells, my father's old lawyer. 70 years old now, sharp as a new saw blade, with the slow, careful voice of a man who'd learned that most problems got worse when you rushed the solutions. He'd known my family since before I was born, had drawn up Dad's will, and helped Mom with the insurance when Dad died of a heart attack at 62. Jonathan's office was downtown in one of those old buildings that Houston forgot to tear down during the boom years. I parked in the shade and walked up 2 flights of stairs because the elevator looked like it remembered the Carter administration. He greeted me with a handshake that could crush walnuts, despite his age. "Charlie, good to see you, son, though I wish the circumstances were different." We sat in his conference room, which was lined with law books that looked like they'd actually been read and legal certificates that had gone yellow around the edges. He got straight to business, the way men of his generation did. "Show me what you've got." I handed him everything. The loan applications, the credit statements, the signatures that looked like mine but felt wrong. He put on reading glasses that made him look like a hawk examining prey, and went through each page with the methodical patience of someone who'd seen every kind of human stupidity the law allowed. After what felt like an hour but was probably only 10 minutes, he leaned back in his leather chair and tapped his pen against the desk. "Charlie," he said, "some of these accounts were opened in the past 6 months, while you were working 60-hour weeks and coming home too tired to read the mail." I nodded. He pointed to a signature line with the tip of his pen. "And this is definitely not your signature. I've seen your handwriting on legal documents for 20 years. "No," I said, "it isn't." He closed the folder and looked at me over his glasses. "Your wife may have committed fraud, son. And if she used your home equity without proper authorization, we're talking about federal charges. This isn't a marriage dispute anymore. This is a crime." My stomach clenched even though I'd suspected as much since the night before. Hearing it from a lawyer made it real in a way that my own suspicions hadn't. "What do I do?" "You do exactly what you're doing," he said, opening another folder and pulling out forms that looked official and intimidating. "You secure your assets, you document everything, you get yourself physical distance from the situation, and you let me handle the legal machinery." He spent the next hour drafting paperwork to freeze every joint account until the marriage situation could be sorted out in court. My money, the money I'd earned pouring concrete and setting rebar under the Houston sun, was now locked where Linda couldn't reach it. "Next," Jonathan said, signing documents with the flourish of a man who'd been practicing law since before computers. You need to get out of town. You staying in Houston will only escalate things, and escalation rarely favors the innocent party. I already booked a ticket, I said. Smart man. Where to? Austin. Figure I'll drive up, take some time to think. He nodded approvingly. Good choice. Close enough to get back for court, far enough to avoid the immediate fallout. He handed me a sealed envelope thick with legal documents. Mail this to your home address tomorrow. It documents the asset freeze, the suspected fraud, and your intent to seek legal separation. When she opens it, she'll know you're serious about this. I slipped the envelope into my jacket pocket. That envelope would be Linda's first real indication that I wasn't the pushover she'd married 15 years ago. Jonathan, I said as I stood to leave, this is going to get ugly, isn't it? He looked at me with the tired wisdom of a man who'd refereed family disasters for 5 decades. Charlie, it's already ugly. We're just making it official. But remember something, you didn't create this mess. You're just refusing to pay for it. Before I left downtown, I stopped at the Union Hall where Steve Castro, our local rep, was holding court over coffee and complaints about the latest safety regulations. Steve had been fighting for working people since before I started swinging hammers, and he had the kind of practical wisdom you only get from decades of dealing with both management and the men who actually did the work. Charlie, he said when I walked in, you look like a man with problems. Getting divorced, I said, pouring myself coffee from a pot that looked like it had been brewing since the Reagan years. About time, Steve said without missing a beat. That woman never respected what you do. I left the house before sunrise 2 days later, while Houston was still wrapped in that gray, pre-dawn quiet that makes everything feel like a movie set waiting for the actors to show up. The neighborhood was dead except for a few porch lights and the distant hum of early commuters heading to jobs that actually mattered. My breath fogged in the cool March air as I stepped onto the porch with one duffel bag, my wallet, Dad's wedding ring tucked safely in my pocket, and a phone I'd already decided to turn off once I hit the road. The house behind me looked different in the pale light, like a place I used to know instead of somewhere I belonged. I didn't leave a note. What was I going to say? Thanks for 15 years of treating me like your personal ATM? Good luck explaining the fraud charges? Sometimes silence carries more weight than words, and I wanted Linda to sit with the quiet and figure out what it meant. The drive to Austin's took 3.5 hours through flat Texas landscape that gradually shifted from industrial sprawl to rolling hills covered with scrub oak and the kind of wildflowers that made you remember why people fought wars over land. I kept the radio off and the windows down, letting the highway noise wash over me like white noise. Austin hit me with live music drifting from bars that were already open at noon and the smell of barbecue smoke mixing with cedar pollen. I found a motel near Town Lake, the Riverside Inn, with peeling paint and a neon sign that flickered like a tired heartbeat. The desk clerk was a kid with gauged ears and a philosophy major attitude who didn't ask questions when I paid cash for a week. My room was clean enough, with air conditioning that worked and a view of the lake through trees that had probably been there since before Texas was Texas. I sat on the bed, kicked off my work boots, and for the first time in years, let myself feel what complete quiet sounded like. My phone had been buzzing during the drive, but I'd ignored it. Now I turned it on to find 12 missed calls from Linda and a text that made me laugh out loud. Where are you? We need that money transferred today. Don't you dare run from this. The irony was beautiful. She was demanding I transfer money I'd already had frozen by court order. I could picture her at the bank, probably wearing her best "I'm important and you'll do what I say" voice, being told that all accounts were locked pending legal review. I turned the phone back off and walked across the street to a barbecue place that looked like it had been there since the Carter administration. The waitress was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and the kind of efficiency you get from 20 years of dealing with hungry people. You look like a man with something on his mind, she said, setting down a plate of brisket that smelled like heaven. Divorce, I said. Ah. She nodded like she'd heard that story 1,000 times. Well, you picked a good place for it. Austin's full of people starting over. Something in the water, maybe. After lunch, I walked down to the lake and found a bench where I could watch people going about their normal lives. Joggers, families with kids, college students who probably thought 30 was old age. For the first time in months, I felt my shoulders relax. That's when I decided to check the phone one more time. 15 new voicemails, 23 texts, and a missed call from my neighbor, Dorothy Phillips. I started with Dorothy's message. Charlie, honey, I don't know what's going on, but there's some kind of commotion at your house. That boy Brandon is in your driveway yelling about money, and Linda looks like she's about to have a stroke. I called the police just in case. You okay, sweetie? The next message was from Linda herself, and her voice had that edge it got when she realized she wasn't in control anymore. Charlie, what is this nonsense at the bank? They're saying our accounts are frozen. You call me back right now and fix this, or there are going to be consequences. Consequences. Like I was still afraid of her tantrums. The third message was Brandon, and he sounded like a teenager who'd just been told he couldn't borrow the car. Dude, what the hell? Mom said you were handling my situation, and now the bank is acting like I'm some kind of criminal. This is seriously messed up, man. You need to call them and straighten this out. I deleted that one without finishing it. By the fifth message, Linda's voice had shifted from demanding to something approaching panic. Charlie, where are you? This isn't funny anymore. The bank manager says there's some kind of legal hold on everything. What did you do? You can't just walk away from your family like this. But the message that made me smile was from my mail carrier, of all people. Old Roy, who'd been delivering mail to Elmwood Drive since before I moved there. Mr. Ramirez, just wanted you to know I delivered that envelope you sent to yourself today. Your wife was on the porch when it came and she grabbed it right out of my hands. Looked like important legal stuff. Hope everything's all right. I could picture the scene. Linda tearing open an envelope addressed to me, expecting maybe a credit card application or insurance offer, and instead finding legal documents that spelled out in careful lawyer language exactly how much trouble she was in. The final voicemail was from Dorothy again, and this time she sounded genuinely worried. Charlie, they're back at your house now, and Brandon is hitting your front door with his fist. Linda's screaming something about lawyers and fraud charges. I've got my curtains closed, but this is getting scary. The police came by earlier, but they left when everything quieted down. You need to know what's happening here. I sat on that bench overlooking the lake, listening to my life implode 300 miles away, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years, the deep satisfaction of watching consequences catch up to people who thought they were above them. Linda had spent our entire marriage treating me like I was too simple to understand complex financial matters. Now she was about to get a graduate-level education in exactly how complex they could become. I flew back to Houston 3 days later, not because Linda demanded it, but because Jonathan called and said the hearing was scheduled and it would be in my best interest to appear in person. Judges like to see the wronged party, he said. Gives them someone to feel sorry for. Austin had been good to me, quiet, honest, and full of people who minded their own business. But you can only hide from a storm for so long before you have to step out and see what's left standing when the wind dies down. The George Bush Intercontinental Airport felt like stepping back into a life that belonged to someone else. Humid Houston air, the smell of jet fuel and fast food, people hurrying toward destinations that suddenly seemed less important than they probably were. I took the bus downtown and walked the last few blocks to the Harris County Courthouse, partly because I needed time to think and partly because I wanted to arrive on my own terms. The courthouse steps were the same gray stone they'd been when I was a kid, worn smooth by decades of people coming to have their lives officially rearranged. I climbed them slowly, each footstep echoing like a countdown to something I couldn't take back. Inside smelled like floor wax and old paper, the institutional smell of justice being processed in bulk. People moved in every direction, lawyers with expensive suits and cheaper attitudes, couples whispering fiercely about custody and alimony, bailiffs herding everyone toward courtrooms where family disasters got sorted into legal categories. Jonathan was waiting on a wooden bench outside courtroom 3, looking like he'd been there since the building opened. He stood when he saw me, and his handshake was steady as a foundation. You ready for this, son? As ready as I'll ever be. He nodded toward the courtroom doors. Remember what we talked about. Stay calm, answer questions directly, and let the evidence speak for itself. The truth has a way of cutting through all the noise. When we walked into the courtroom, Linda was already seated at the petitioner's table wearing a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than most people made in a month. Her makeup was heavier than usual, the kind you wear when you're trying to hide stress or sleepless nights. Brandon sat beside her in a suit jacket that looked like it came from the clearance rack at a department store. His leg bounced under the table like he was late for somewhere important, and his expression suggested he still thought this was all some kind of misunderstanding that would get sorted out once the adults started talking. The moment Linda saw me, her jaw tightened into a line that could cut glass. Brandon turned and gave me a look that somehow managed to be both defiant and pleading. Nice of you to show up, he said, loud enough for half the courtroom to hear. Jonathan put a hand on my arm. Save it for the judge, he murmured. Judge William Morrison entered with the tired authority of a man who'd spent 20 years listening to people blame each other for their poor decisions. He was tall, thin, with silver hair and glasses that sat halfway down his nose like he was perpetually examining something distasteful. Case number 24 FC 1187, Ramirez versus Ramirez. Hearing my own name announced like that made something in my stomach twist, but it also felt like the starting bell for a fight I'd been training for without knowing it. Linda stood immediately, and her voice carried that particular blend of wounded innocence and righteous indignation she'd perfected over the years. Your Honor, my husband abandoned our family without warning. He froze our joint accounts, stole money that was designated to help my son during a business crisis, and disappeared across state lines to avoid his responsibilities as a husband and family provider. Stole money. The woman who'd forged my signature on loan documents was accusing me of theft. Judge Morrison raised his hand. Mrs. Ramirez, you'll have your opportunity to present your case. Please be seated. She sat down hard, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she held herself like someone bracing for impact. Jonathan rose and placed a thick folder on the table in front of him. Your Honor, we have extensive documentation demonstrating that my client didn't abandon his family but removed himself from an ongoing pattern of financial fraud and emotional abuse. A murmur passed through the gallery. Linda's head snapped toward me with a look that could have stripped paint. Included in our evidence, Jonathan continued, opening the folder with the ceremony of someone unveiling a masterpiece, are business loan applications bearing forged signatures, unauthorized access to home equity lines, attempts to liquidate retirement accounts without consent, and documentation of threats made when Mr. Ramirez refused to pay debts incurred without his knowledge. Linda shot to her feet. Linda. That is absolutely untrue. Mrs. Ramirez, Judge Morrison said sharply, sit down. Now. She sat, but her hands were shaking with what looked like rage mixed with the first real taste of fear. Jonathan methodically walked through the evidence like he was building a house, one piece at a time. The forged signatures that didn't match samples of my actual handwriting. The loan applications filed while I was working 60-hour weeks. The attempt to access my 401k the day after I'd refused to pay Brandon's debts. Furthermore, Jonathan said, Mrs. Ramirez attempted to sell the family home while Mr. Ramirez was out of state, despite having no legal ownership of the property. Judge Morrison studied the paperwork for what felt like an hour, but was probably only a few minutes. When he finally looked up, his expression suggested he'd seen enough family stupidity for one day. Mrs. Ramirez, this is extremely serious. Identity theft, fraud, attempted theft of retirement funds, these aren't marital disputes, these are crimes. Linda's face went white. Beside her, Brandon had stopped bouncing his leg and was staring at the table like he was trying to disappear into the wood grain. Your Honor, Linda said, and for the first time her voice cracked. I was just trying to help my son. I did what any mother would do. Jonathan cleared his throat. Your Honor, committing financial fraud against your spouse isn't motherhood. It's a felony. Judge Morrison removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly, the way people do when they're trying to find the right words for something distasteful. Mr. Brandon Ramirez, he said finally, do you have anything to say about these alleged loans? Brandon straightened up and tried to look responsible, but the effect was somewhat undermined by the fact that he was 26 years old and still needed his mother to co-sign his debts. Look, sir, fitness coaching is a volatile industry. I had a solid business plan. I just needed some capital to get through a rough patch. My mom was trying to help me succeed. By committing fraud against her husband? Brandon's mouth opened and closed like a fish pulled out of water. I didn't know I thought he was okay with it. The judge turned back to Linda. Mrs. Ramirez, did you inform your husband before you used his identity to secure these loans? He was working so much and Brandon needed help quickly. That's a no, Judge Morrison said. He put his glasses back on and made a note that looked final. Mr. Ramirez, what are you seeking from this court? Jonathan stood. Legal separation, exclusive ownership of the family home, return of all retirement funds to individual accounts, and a restraining order preventing any further access to my client's financial assets. Granted, the judge said without hesitation. Mrs. Ramirez, you have 48 hours to vacate the property. Any further attempts to access Mr. Ramirez's accounts or credit will result in criminal charges. As for your son's debts, that's between him and his creditors. Brandon jumped up. You can't do that. I'll lose everything. Sit down, the judge ordered. You should have thought about that before you let your mother commit fraud on your behalf. The gavel came down with the finality of a nail being driven home. Court adjourned. I stood up slowly, feeling lighter than I had in years. Linda turned toward me, and for a moment I saw not the manipulative woman who'd treated me like a walking checkbook, but someone small and desperate and suddenly very alone. "Charlie," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can—" I looked at her for what I knew would be the last time and felt something I hadn't expected. Not anger, not triumph, just a quiet sense of completion. "No," I said, "we can't." I walked out of that courtroom and into the Houston sunshine, pulled out my phone and called Steve Castro. "It's over," I said. "Good," he replied without asking for details. "You coming back to work?" "Eventually. I'm thinking about taking some vacation time first. Maybe drive back up to Austin, see if they need any construction workers who know what they're doing." Steve laughed. "Hell, Charlie, they probably need someone who can actually show up on time and sober. You'll be the best thing that happened to them in years." As I walked down those courthouse steps, I felt my father's wedding ring in my pocket and realized something. Some things are worth building, and some things are worth tearing down. The trick is knowing which is which. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to be a victim anymore.